Ito na po, no, pag-usapan natin itong si Hontiveros. Paano siya dinurog dito kay Attorney Rbasa. I-recall natin ha, na itong si Attorney Rbasa ay parang halatang halata itong si Hontiveros na medyo may nagpakita na siya ng bias dito sa defense team ni BP Sara. Ha? Bias siya in a way na parang sinisigurado niya ang point of view o kumbaga yung opinion ng defense team patungkol po sa grave threat. Okay? Mamaya pag-usapan natin yan kasi dito po na-obvious itong si Hontiveros dito sa pagtatanong niya kay Rbasa. So medyo may kaunti pong sagutan kay Hontiveros at itong magaling na defense team ni VP Sara na si Attorney Rbasa. Okay? Mamaya ipapakita natin yan. At last but not the least, ito yung pinaka-importante sa vlog. Dito yung dapat yung abangan. Itong si Attorney Powa, nagpapa-interview si Attorney Powa, itong defense team ni BP Sara sa Bilyonaryo News. At doon niya itinalakay kung bakit sila lamang doon sa round 1 ng impeachment trial ni BP Sara. So yung ibig kong sabihin ng round 1, that composes day 1, day 2, and day 3. At bakit doon natin maririnig itong si Attorney Powa sa kanyang paliwanag kung paano po dinurog ng defense team itong mga prosecutors sa kanilang gawa-gawang mga ebidensya nitong mga prosecutors. Okay, so yun po ang mga pag-uusapan natin. Pero bago ang lahat, paki-like, paki-share itong video natin para kakalat ito sa taong bayan. At sa mga hindi pa nakasubscribe, huy, kung makikita nyo sa ating metrics, no, sa ating YouTube, makikita natin doon na grabe, sobrang dami pong nagsasubscribe natin ngayong buwan na ito, no? Kaya mahalaga po na mag-subscribe kayo sa mga hindi pa nakasubscribe kasi po kapag nakasubscribe kayo, ano na kayo, ma-update na kayo sa ating mga trending na mga balita patungkol po sa impeachment trial ni BP Sara. Kaya subscribe na po kayo, okay? So ito, panuorin natin itong second video kung paano dinurog itong si Hontiveros at pinangaralan ni Chis Escudero, no? Makipagdebate ka pa dito kay Carlo Rbasa, Attorney Carlo, no? Na defense team ni BP Sara. Ito po, panoorin natin.
Judge Hontiveros is recognized. You may proceed, ma'am, and you have 2 minutes.
Halatang halata si Hontiveros dito na kahit ano namang talagang mangyari, kahit mapapatunayan niya ng defense team na inosente si BP Sara, boboto naman talaga yan for impeachment si Hontiveros. Alam na natin yan. Dito lang talaga, nagpapakita si Hontiveros, bias na siya.
Salamat po, Mr.
That's my own opinion sa nakikita ko.
Presiding Officer. Para sa Counsel for the Defense, Mr. Presiding Officer, just for clarity, ano pong relevance nung video na ipinakita ni Attorney Zuleika Lopez? Sinasabi po ba ng depensa na yung mga alleged threats o alleged incitements ni VP Duterte ay prompted nung detention ni Attorney Lopez?
Yes, Your Honor. There was a systematic oppression made by the House of Representatives dating back from their even before their mini trial, Your Honor. The committee headed by Representative Joel Chua began investigating the Vice President and her people. Even when Attorney Zuleika Lopez was being interviewed by the House Committee of Quadcom Committee, Your Honor, even if she was answering the questions faithfully and to the best of her ability, she was cited in contempt, detained. Her lawyer was not allowed. Her lawyer was not allowed to be with her when they were trying to detain her in the Women's Correctional Facility, Your Honor.
So, Mr. Presiding Officer, Counsel for the Defense, position po ba ng depensa na pwedeng palampasin ng alleged grave threats kung may masasabing lehitimong dahilan?
Tingnan niyo yung naratibo niya grave threat talaga. Grave threat talaga ang naratibo nila. Sinabi na yan ni Panelo, walang grave threat nga. Naratibo niyo Paano naging grave threat yan? Unahin muna nating isipin na si VP Sara po ang una pong gini-grave threat.
Ilan para magbanta?
Walang
Your Honor,
banta,
that is not the point.
No, no, no. Mr. Presiding Officer, I am making a point through my question and I am asking the good counsel for the defense dahil sinabi nila there was a systematic oppression that yes, yan po ang nag-prompt nung alleged grave threats and alleged incitements ng Vice President na prompt po ng detention ni Attorney Lopez na kanyang inilarawan sa ipinakitang video kanina.
Kasi para sa akin parang talagang ano yun self-defense yun ni BP Sara di ba? Hindi nga yung grave threat. Ikaw, kung meron pong gustong gumurgur sa'yo, anong gagawin mo? Gugurgurin mo talaga rin siya, di ba? Para bang, na-corner ka na sa isang room, merong gustong gumurgur sa'yo, di ba? Anong gagawin mo para hindi ka magurgur? Di ba? So, didepensahan mo yung sarili mo. Parang ganoon din ang nangyari kay BP Sara. Sa tingin ko, that's my own opinion. Hindi naman ako expert dyan. Basta sinabi lang ni BP Sara, para hindi ako magurgur, parang, sige, sasabihin ko sa kanila na kapag magurgur ako, bantay lang kayo kasi magurgurin kayo. Parang ganun ba?
Kaya itinatanong ko kung yan ba ang posisyon ng depensa na pwedeng okay lang or pwedeng tanggapin ang grave threats kung may masasabing lehitimong dahilan para magbanta.
Yes, Your Honor.
Before counsel
Yes, Mr. Presiding
responded answers, although he already answered in the affirmative,
Your Honor, I was just referring to before.
we would like to remind the Senator Judge.
Nire-remind nila lahat na ni Chis Escudero pero ang kanyang pinatutungkulan dito si Hontiveros. Ayan.
To be cautious in making counsels for either party make conclusions of law and fact instead of presenting evidence through a witness they will present
Obvious na
or
kasi.
through direct, cross, redirect, or recross. Because if he answers Senator Judge Hontiveros, that would effectively place on record a conclusion of fact and law, not drawn from a witness, which they can very well do so during their closing remarks. And when I allow him to speak by way of repartee to the peroration yesterday and discussion yesterday by counsel for the prosecution. But other than that, as agreed with some of the senator judges, we would try to limit the answers of the counsels for the parties. With your indulgence, Senator Judge Hontiveros, please.
I submit, Mr. Presiding
Thank you,
Officer, may I just in closing make of record that I also appreciated and also submitted to the ruling of the presiding officer yesterday because I appreciated that it partook of the history of impeachment proceedings in this court. Pinag-aralan ko rin po ng maigi ang mga nakaraang mga impeachment trials at di hamak na pati noon naging liberal ang pagpapahintulot nila sa mga katanungan ng mga senator judges para lang mas maliwanagan ang iba't ibang punto. So I again thank the good presiding officer and again reiterate my submission to his ruling and thank the good counsel for the defense for his response.
We thank Senator Hontiveros for indulgence. And
So yan po ang nangyari hindi umubra si Hontiveros doon Tatanungin pa niya, grave threat. Obvious naman inaapi nyo lang si BP Sara para magmukhang si BP Sara talagang may kasalanan doon na nag-grave threat si BP Sara. Ito po, paliwanag ngayon ni Attorney Michael Powa at siya po ay kumpiyansa na ang defense team ni VP Sara, no? Pagkatapos ng day 3, tinatanong siya kung makakalusot ba si VP Sara. Ang sabi niya, maganda yung performance ng defense team. Obvious naman, nakikita naman ng taong bayan. Ito po, panoorin natin. Maganda po ito. Play.
Matapos ang ikatlong araw ng impeachment trial
Yan,
ni
forward
Vice
natin.
President Sara Duterte,
Haba pang tatakbo ng trial.
kaya
I feel like that's
Forward
po,
natin.
Medyo kulang na po talaga tayo doon, no? Because
Sa tulog.
syempre po, no, kahit na 3 days lang yung trial day, or trial dates natin, obviously the other days are spent preparing naman for the next week, no? Although it's good that we all started early, so matagal na naming inaabangan kasi itong trial na to. So we have basically everything in place, but syempre may fine-tuning here and there as we go along. So hindi pa rin talaga tayo tumitigil sa preparations for the following week, no, ng trial.
parang tama po ba na it is expected that for the first 3 days, because yung unang araw parang presentasyon pa lang ng mga rules, ang mga kung ano, ebidensya, etc. And then second day was yung testigo po ng prosekusyon. And then kayo po naman ang magko-cross-examine kahapon.
Opo.
So parang inaasahan na itong linggong ito, the ball will be in the court of the prosecution. And thereby, sila rin talaga ang magmumukhang ungos kasi hindi pa naman kayo nagpepresenta ng sarili ninyong ebidensya.
Tama po, Ms. Corina. And actually, it's not just this week, no? It will be the following weeks. Kasi ang mangyayari talaga, and magandang nabanggit niyo po para maintindihan ng ating mga kababayan, that really the prosecution will have to present its evidence first, no? And then afterwards, we'll decide if the defense will still present our evidence if need be. If not, we might even file a demurrer. Yung demurrer, technical yan, no? Sinasabi natin, hindi naman napatunayan ng prosecution yung mga aligasyon nila, so hindi na kami mag-represent ng ebidensya. Hindi natin sinasabi na gagawin natin yan, hindi rin natin sinasabi na hindi natin gagawin yan, masyado pa namang maaga. But maganda pong maintindihan yun, no? Na right now, ang trabaho lang talaga ng defense is to cross-examine, no? Yung mga witnesses na pinipresenta ng prosecution.
And mahalaga ba, gaano kahalaga, attorney, na kung katibagin yung mga testigo, halimbawa yung si NBI senior agent, bakit po siya kailangan kumbaga matibag yung credibility niya?
Mahalaga po talaga bawat witness, no? Kasi nga sa ngayon, we will win this phase of the trial by cross-examination pa lang kasi hindi pa kami naglalabas ng mga ebidensya namin. So mahalaga rin, kailangan natin tingnan yung mga kredibilidad ng mga taong inihaharap as testigo, no, bilang mga witnesses, para nang sa ganun malaman natin kung may katotohanan din ba yung mga sinasabi nila. So that's why nakita nyo kahapon, no, there were questions on yung qualification ng witness. As una kasi akala namin expert witness, but the witness himself said, no, that he wasn't an expert but a competent witness daw. Nonetheless, kailangan natin tingnan yung kwalifikasyon niya dahil sinasabi niya siya yung nag-extract ng video, siya yung nag-save ng video sa USB. So kailangan nating tingnan, no, para sa authentication stage ng ebidensya nila.
At normal din ba na maraming objection talaga ang depensa?
Oo, actually, hindi lang depensa. In fact, nung una kasing araw, I'll be very candid, nakita ko naman yung mga kumakalat sa SOCMED, di ba, na Mr. Objection daw ang defense. But as you've all seen yesterday, nung kami naman na nagko-cross-examine, marami ring objections ang prosecution. And that's normal, no? There's nothing wrong with what the prosecution did because we feel there's nothing wrong with the defense did. Sa regular courts, normal naman po. Trabaho lang po talaga ng abogado ang mag-object. Pag nakikita namin na merong ground, no, under the rules for objection, meaning yung tanong ay improper or hindi dapat tinatanong sa witness.
Okay. So, bale, sigurado nakakaramdam kayo ng pressure kasi hindi naman siya ordinaryong
Kaso.
I mean, the entire nation is watching. Social media has a comment on every utterance. So, paano po yun? How do you keep your cool under that pressure?
Well, Ms. Corina, syempre, we try as best as we can to keep the noise out, kumbaga. But of course, siguro magbobolhan tayo if I tell you na walang pressure, diba? Of course, there's pressure and it's very different from a normal court proceeding na halos wala namang nakakanood sa'yo except for the people who are present there. And it's very different from previous impeachment trials, no? Because the previous trials, wala pa naman tayong masyadong SOCMED talaga, diba? Ngayon lang talaga that you can see all the comments online. So, ako personally, and I think most of us in the defense team, we try to keep out of social media para hindi tayo masyadong naapektuhan, no? But, well, ako personally, I can't help but also look because sometimes, you know,
It's constructive.
It's constructive, and based on the comments, we also might need to do I mean, we have to
Adjustments,
be, we have to be very, how do you say this? Kailangan siguro medyo magpakatotoo din tayo. I mean, huwag tayong masyadong egotistic, no? Na pag may mga constructive comments naman, siguro dapat pakinggan din natin. So it's really balancing that, no?
Right.
It's balancing the noise and what we consider as constructive.
Right. At so maaasahan natin next week, bawas na yung objection. Well, that's to put it
We cannot commit to
simplistically.
that.
Oh, we cannot commit. Okay. So, isa sa mga naging sentro ng usapan yung sinasabing pagtitibag nga dito sa kredibilidad ng unang testigo, no? Ang napansin ko lang po, parang he was being cross-examined as a representative of the NBI when specifically his expertise is technical.
Yes.
Parang ano din kasi hindi niya masabi ng diretso yun Yung testigo ba? Na hindi ko po masasagot yan. Technical po ako. Ang pinag-uusapan dito, authenticity. Okay? Hindi ba? At tinatanong sa kanya yung tungkol sa hitman plot. Paano naman niya malalaman yon? So what do you think? Well, how do you assess?
Well, Ms. Corina, kasi aside from the technical aspect, he also signed kasi yung affidavit of investigation. So when you sign an affidavit of investigation, obviously the presumption is you've read the affidavit itself, diba? So he was involved. But nonetheless, there will be other witnesses that will be called upon by the prosecution. I think si Agent Lotok will be called on Monday. And then of course, si Director Matibag will also be called, no, at some point. Hindi pa yata next week. But
Yan,
nakita na
excited
namin
tayo
yung
dyan kay
request
Matibag.
for issuance of subpoena. So there
Sino
will
po
be...
yung Agent Lotok? I mean, what is his
Kasama
area?
rin po siya sa pumirma, no? So isa siya sa mga nag-imbestiga. And even si Agent Kalilong yesterday also said na may mga nakausap din siyang mga dumalo, yung mga inimbita nila para sa investigasyon nila. So there is personal knowledge on his part, no, pagdating doon. So natatanong namin siya Lalo-lalo na dun sa affidavit of investigation. Of course, I cannot talk about the merits. No? That's why I'm just trying to be very factual para lang maintindihan ng tao kung ano yung nangyari kahapon.
So if the purpose of putting this witness on the stand yesterday was to establish authenticity, was he able to establish authenticity of the video?
Well, that's up to the impeachment court. No? That's up to the impeachment
okay.
court. Sa atin naman, parati kasi akong tinatanong, kahit kahapon, Ms. Corina, kung madagdag ko lang na, bakit? Dinideny nyo ba yung video, yung ganyan, di ba? Look, again, siguro naglolokohan na tayo if we deny that there was such a statement, no? There was such an utterance. Pero pagdating kasi sa video, syempre kailangan din natin malaman, like I say, hindi naman kasi naglalakad ang ebidensya, mag-isa papunta ng korte, 'di ba? Someone has to testify, bring it and testify on it and authenticate it. At pagdating sa video, syempre hindi naman natin alam kung saan niya nakuha yung video na yan, how is it compared to the original source, which is probably the Zoom meeting, the saved file of the Zoom meeting, diba? Or Zoom press conference. So may mga ganyang technical na bagay talaga na kailangan pagdaanan, not just in impeachment but in regular courts. No?
Is there more? Is there more than what the public saw? Or more than what is now presented as evidence in that video? To put it in better context.
Yes, that's why we were asking for, we were asking initially that, in fact, even the senators were debating upon the 2-hour video. They were asking us if we will be asking the court to play the entire 2 hours and I think 26-minute video.
2 hours pala yun?
Ganun kahaba yun eh. So, and we said that we are planning to do so. Now, kahapon, hindi namin muna tinuloy because we didn't find the need to do it. No? That's why we showed just other clips. Bakit yun importante? Kasi nga, konteksto, like you said. No? Pag nagsabi kasi tayo na meron na record na isang like a 2-minute clip based on the statement of the Vice President, hindi naman kasi, kumbaga, hindi natin napapakita yung buong konteksto kung paano ba umabot sa ganung statement. That's why we wanted to really show the entire 2-hour video. But I think the appropriate time will come. Now, I am not saying that we will or we won't. Siguro titingnan lang natin kung ano yung takbo because I know that 2 hours and 26 minutes is a long time, especially we don't want to waste judicial time, also the time of the senators and the viewers also. So, kung kinakailangan, that option is still there.
Pero importante yun, ano?
Yung
makita
context,
yung buo.
Yes.
So, ano naman yung lumabas po doon sa closing statement na Oplan Romanov?
Well, basically, again, I don't want to get into the merits, so factual lang. That was one of the questions posed by, I think, either a media personality or a vlogger dun sa nangyaring press con na yon noong November 2024. At yung Project Romanov allegedly was a threat against the life of the Vice President as well as the lives of her family. So, dun yung pinanggalingan. But again, I'll stop there na lang siguro. That's why it's very important for us to have the proper context and to see the entire video para makita ng tao, ano ba tong Project Romanov, ano ba pinanggalingan nitong statement ng ating Vice Presidente.
What was the state of mind also of the VP?
What was the situation then, yes, that brought about that state of
Kasi
mind?
merong mga nagsasabi, hindi siya, yung kanyang outburst o yung kanyang pagiging emosyonal sa video daw ay hindi nanggagaling sa puso ng Vice Presidente o sa utak ng Vice Presidente, kundi mula sa puso ng isang ina. Dahil nga doon sa pagbabanta sa kanila.
Or bugso rin ng damdamin, ano?
Oo, syempre, kung mother hen ka, di ba? Or mother, ikaw yung lioness.
Protector, oo.
Yeah, you protect your brood. So, well, anyway, yun ang sinasabing tutumbukin. Oo.
Attorney Mike, napag-uusapan niyo pa rin ba yung posibilidad na iharap na mismo si VP Sara in this article particularly para maliwanag niya kung ano ba talaga yung kanyang kumbaga intent or state of mind at that time?
Willard, sa ngayon, hindi pa, sa totoo lang. No? Kasi hindi pa namin nakikita yung necessity na iharap mismo ang Vice Presidente dito. So, ang parati kong sinasabi kung kinakailangan at ang tanong sa akin, kailan ba kinakailangan? It will depend dun sa takbo talaga ng trial. No? At kung sa tingin namin, it will be advantageous, of course, to the defense na may harap siya, then we will do so. I mean, we will, of course, ask her and ultimately the decision will fall upon her if she wants to appear and testify. Pero sa ngayon, di pa namin nakikita na kinakailangan. I think we will be able to prove our case without having to do that just yet.
Okay, was that necessary? Yung kanyang pagpunta po doon? I mean, at this point, I guess lahat ng mga desisyon o aksyon has a purpose, no? You have to be purposeful dahil everybody is watching. So, do you think that was necessary that people saw that she was there in the building?
Again, I'll be very candid, Ms. Corina. The real purpose for that was I was talking to her and she said, that perhaps we could have a meeting. And so I said, okay. And she was only available because she came from Davao and she flew in that day for several engagements and she was available at a certain time, no, mga around 12 o'clock to 1 o'clock. And so I said, okay. And then she said, where would you be? And I said, well, usually the defense team is already in the holding room, no, sa Senate. Kasi 2 p.m. yung trial eh. And nag-meeting pa rin kami doon for whatever will happen that day. So sabi niya, sige, puntahan ko na lang kayo. And a lot of people put a lot of things into that, no? They made a lot of things into that. But the truth is, even during my time with her in DepEd, that's her character. Eh. She was always very considerate of my schedule or where I was at a certain time, and she always wanted where it was convenient for us.
Spontaneous.
And the problem is, if we were to meet outside, baka magdahol kami sa oras, as with the traffic nowadays, baka malate kami dun sa 2 p.m. namin na trial. So, minarapat niya na puntahan na lang kami doon. There was no other intention other than to really have a meeting with us. No? It wasn't a strategic move on the team's part. In fact, we confirmed the meeting, I think, if not the night before, nung umaga lang. No? So
kumbaga parang impromptu press con ang nangyari.
Yan ang gulo-gulo.
Oo. Actually, ako po yung nagsalita. In fact, she told me na kaagad, no, in fairness to the media, please tell them, out of consideration rather for the media, please tell them that I will not be attending the trial because she didn't want the media to expect, no, or mga kababayan natin to expect. So please explain why I'm there. That's why nag-press con muna ako bago siya dumating. Nagmamadali akong pumunta doon para maka-press con bago siya dumating para ma-explain kaagad yung context din ng pagpunta niya.
Kayo ba yung tinuturo ni VP nung sinabi niya na pinayuhan siya na mag-entertain ng questions mula sa media?
Oo.
Kung may paliwanag nilang po.
Ako yun. No, because it's very, the rules are very strict. No? In terms, Rule 18 of the Senate impeachment rules provides that the senator judges, the parties and their counsels, which kami yun, and parties meaning the Vice President, no, cannot discuss the merits of the case publicly. Kumbaga, ito yung katumbas ng sub judice rules sa regular courts. No? So, we're very mindful of that rule, and that's why kahit ako sa mga interviews and sa mga press con, medyo pigil din talaga ako, no? Because I have to be very mindful, baka ma-contempt kami because we're violating that rule. And even the presiding officer reminded us on the first day during his opening statement about that rule, no, that we cannot disclose. Kasi nga, you're trying to sway the public opinion or condition the mind of the public one way or the other.
So, pina-aprobahan na lang ba sa inyo yung kanyang one-liner
Ay, hindi
mula
po.
sa tula?
Wala po. Hindi ko po nakita yon bago siya nagsalita. Sabay lang natin narinig. Kumbaga, sabay lang natin nalaman kung ano yung statement na yun.
Bakit ka namamangha ka dun sa one-liner, ano?
Oo, very dramatic siyempre. Galing sa tulang Invictus.
Oo, hindi ba? So, ngayon alam na natin, hindi ba kung saan ang galing yung parang siguro damdamin ni VP, no? The question now is, can she convince the senator judges where she was coming from? Okay, so 3 days for one witness, o sabihin natin 2 days. Ang dami pang witness, sir. Aabot ba yung sinasabi yung numero ng, yung bilang po ng mga araw na
Well, Ms. Corina, it's up to the prosecution, no? Kasi sila yung magprepresenta muna. Kami naman, nakadepende kami kung
Correct.
depende sa naging
Depensa
presentasyon
nga.
nila kung ilang witness ang kakailangan namin to rebut, no? If there is even a need to rebut. But yung witness usually, ano yan eh, isang araw lang per witness. Meaning dapat sa isang araw matapos ang direct examination and cross-examination. Ideally. But yung nangyari kasi nung Tuesday, medyo humaba, no? Because of the need to authenticate several documents. But again, let's be fair to the prosecution. That's normal. No? And even with the defense, darating din yung panahon na kami naman at maaring mahaba rin yung maging presentasyon namin because of the need to authenticate voluminous documents.
Oo. Biro mo, isang video lang, ano? Ang daming witness, ang daming dokumento. So, handa na po ba kayo doon sa sinasabing may ilalabas daw silang testigo na may kinalaman o magpapatunay na may kinausap nga na gun for hire?
Inaabangan namin kung sino yung testigo na yon, and definitely from what we know, no, we will be ready to cross-examine whoever that witness is kasi hindi naman natin pa kilala kung sino yon, but definitely handa naman tayo kahit naman sa regular court proceedings nangyayari yung mga ganyan. So it's not as if we don't have experience with things like that.
So you were informed beforehand that there is such a witness pero hindi sinasabi kung sino?
Yes, because actually I'm not sure if they specifically said, no, that there will be such a witness, but narinig naman natin in recent days na meron nga daw lalabas, etc. Inaabangan lang natin, but it's just to put things in context also. In our pre-trial briefs, yung sinubmit namin sa korte, we are allowed to, of course we are required to name our witnesses, no? But we are also allowed to leave reservations. Meaning, ibig sabihin nun, hindi ko muna ilalagay yung pangalan, pero ilalagay ko yung purpose. No? Bakit ko hindi ilalagay yung pangalan? For the security of the witnesses. No? So may mga ganun naman po, and allowed naman po yan. Ang hiningi lang namin sa prosecution, which they agreed to, is disclosure at least 5 days prior to presentation. Para makapaghanda kami at para makapaghanda rin naman yung mga senator judges natin.
Disclosure even of the name, attorney.
Of the
Even
name, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so kapag dumating na po ang panahon ng pagpipresenta ninyo ng inyong mga ebidensya, ano po ang aasahan po namin na mapapatunayan?
Sa amin po, pagdating dito sa, itong unang article,
Yes,
which is
oo.
Article
4.
4, no? Ang maasahan lang is, mapapakita namin yung buong konteksto, mapapakita natin kung ano ba ang sanhi, kung bakit nagkaroon ng ganong statement, at ano ba yung talagang nabanggit kahapon na threat against the Vice President herself.